Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Sniper Sundays Volume 5. I hope everybody is well and had a great trading week, and I hope everybody's enjoying their weekend, especially those in the UK. We've got that extra day off as it's a bank holiday in the UK tomorrow. Today there's quite a lot to get through, so I'm going to basically just get straight to it. And talking of the bank holiday, I'm going to just run over the economic calendar to show what's coming up with the week ahead. So tomorrow, as you can see here, it's also a bank holiday in Japan, as well as the UK, and there's not really too much on the economic calendar coming out tomorrow. Just some talks for the Canadian dollar, which is something to be aware of, but nothing too major. Tuesday, however, we do have some impactful news on Tuesday for the Australian dollar. This will be coming out at 2:30. 4 and 5:30 a.m. for anybody living in the UK. So this will be something that you might need to sort of set your alarm for and wake up to keep an eye on your trades if you've got any Aussie dollar trades. And yeah, also we have similar on Wednesday for the New Zealand dollar at around the same time, 3 and 4 a.m. in the morning for anybody in the UK. So again, this might be something that you need to stay up for or get up early for, to keep an eye on any trades that you have that involve the New Zealand dollar. Now Thursday, there's not too much. We do have the Fed speaking at 1:30, excuse me, and that's something to keep an eye out for, along with the PPI news. So we'll be keeping an eye on the US dollar pairs at that point. And then on Friday we have some Royal Bank of Australia monetary policy statement, again early in the morning for the Australian dollar. Then we've got some GDP and manufacturing news for the Great British Pound, which is basically standard news that comes out all the time. And this can move the market if it's if it differs from what's expected majorly. And also the Canadian dollar news. This is a bit of a mover, especially for say USD CAD, because we have US dollar news and Canadian news at the same time at 1:30. So keep an eye out for that. Now Euro US dollar. First pair I'm going to get into today, so quite interesting what's been happening on this pair recently. So let's just have a look at this pair now. We have, I don't know why this candlestick is here, this daily candlestick. I think there's a little bit of a glitch on TradingView at the moment. This candlestick isn't actually formed. This is the last candlestick on Friday. So yeah, this is happening on a few pairs for some reason. You can see on the 4-hour chart we've got that big push up to the upside, but there's no pullback as it shows on the daily. So a little bit of a glitch on TradingView at the moment, but which some of you might be experiencing. So forget about this red candle here, that's non-existent. On Friday what we had was a push down to the downside and a push all the way back up, ending as a very sort of bullish candlestick. Bullish engulfing here, engulfing the previous day's price action, and basically finishing as a pin bar, so a bullish sort of reversal candlestick. Now I'll just go over what I was explaining last week on this pair. If I go to the 4-hour chart, what we can see here on this pair is that we were trading below this support of 1.1175. Last Sniper Sundays we were trading around this level here. Now I was anticipating a move higher, a bit of a retracement before going in line with the overall trade and actually coming down lower. So I was looking at this pair coming up, and I explained that if we could get a break above this level here, this blue resistance level here, 1.1175, if we could get a break above this, then I would be looking at taking short-term long trades, to basically coming up to retest one of these Fibonacci retracement levels. So if I just get that up here, you can just see this Fibonacci retracement that we actually retraced all the way up to this perfect 61.8% retracement level here, and then we had this 4-hour bearish engulfing the previous 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 candlesticks, and then pushing back down to the downside. So this is what I was actually looking for, and the reason being is you can see this Fibonacci move went over last week, which is here. We had the A, B, C retracement here, and we had that perfect touch of that first Fibonacci extension here. As you can see, we just tapped that. We saw some profit taken and some bulls coming into the market to push this back up. So given that we had fulfilled that Fibonacci sequence, I was then looking for this pair as mentioned last week, and I drew this Fibonacci on, coming up and retesting these sort of levels. So given the fact that we had took a long trade on this actually on Friday evening before sniper entries, but at the time of sniper entries we were trading higher, so I explained to wait for a break above this resistance level. We had that break above and retest here. You can see a nice retest, retesting it again as support, and then we moved up higher. Now from that level, I showed you that I took a short trade on this pair last week from these levels, and that was the reason. This is the reason why. So first off, we had that retracement that I was expecting, in line with the, and I was taking a short trade in line with the overall trend. We'll just look at, if I zoom out so you can see the bigger picture on the 4-hour chart, you can see here they were just making lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, and creating a lower high. We also had this trend line here, and we can see that we actually came up and just tapped that level perfectly before making that retracement down lower. Now around this price, I was watching price action around this level and around this trend line because it was just before the FOMC meeting last Wednesday. Now a while back, I've explained a few times how we get some manipulation around the FOMC meeting, and any news release, there's always a bit of manipulation. And what we actually got was a push up to tap that resistance of that trend line resistance, and we fulfilled that perfect sort of Fibonacci retracement there, and then we pushed back down to the downside. Now that was a nice short trade, and what I was very wary of on Friday was coming back down to this level that we were broken out of, this 1.1175. I was watching price action as we came back towards this, for looking at taking some profit, because it was just before the non-farm payroll results on Friday. Now the non-farm payroll, they're always a big mover in the market, and as I explained on last week's video, not to really trade around the non-farm payroll because there's a lot of manipulation around that time, and the markets can just change direction very, very fast. Now this is exactly a very good example. So I was in a short trade from up here. I took some profit before non-farm payroll. I moved my stop loss to break even. And what we can see here is on non-farm payroll, this 4-hour candlestick, we had that big push down to the downside, and then we pulled back, and we've actually now reversed and gone the other way. So if I actually drop down to the 1-hour candlestick to show you some more of how price action actually reacted, we can see here that on that 1 o'clock candlestick, or that 1 o'clock 1:30 when the news was released, we came down here on euro, and then on the news release we had that knee-jerk reaction where we pushed down, and anybody that's a day trader or a scalper would have seen this big push down, this big fast move down in price action, and then would have probably jumped in, taken a short, and then quickly and swiftly the market reversed and pushed back up to the upside. So as mentioned before, sorry, excuse me again. As mentioned before, I don't really like to trade the trader markets the day after non-farm payroll. I like to let the dust settle, see where the market's at. There's been a bit of manipulation, around the non-farm payroll release, and people are caught in positions and so on, and it gets a bit messy. So I like to see the market sort of rest on a Monday, possibly even until Tuesday, unless there's something very obvious to take, and then take a trade. So from this at the moment with Euro USD in a week going ahead, I put on this level here, and with that trend line that we had, that you can see that we rejected. If I just zoom out on this again, you can see we had that 0.1, 0.2 and 0.3. So I'm going to actually just wait and see what price action does around these levels, and wait for maybe a breakout either to the upside or to the downside in order to take the next direction on this, because we've had this this push up, and then we pulled all the way back down. Now it looked like we're going to push back up again, so we're sort of ranging a little bit here, nothing really too obvious on where this pair is going to go next. So I'm going to sit back and wait Monday and Tuesday, see what the price action does, and see if we get any signs. If we can get a break of this counter trend line here, then I am going to be looking at euro possibly coming down to make new lows and come down to 1.1000. But what we might see is we might come up, retest the top of this trend, retest this trend line, reject this, come down and test the counter trend line again, and then possibly push back up to the upside. So we might see a little bit of bouncing around here, something like this going on. So let's get this arrow again, maybe coming back down to test this, and then from maybe this level coming back up and pushing back up again. So we could see a little bit of manipulation, a little bit of just price consolidating and ranging from around this area. So I'm going to keep an eye on this and then just see what happens over the next few days. But I'm not rushing in to a trade on Euro US dollar at the moment. GBP USD, something quite interesting. Last week we had some sort of Brexit news, as it was to deal with politics that came. We had some news that came out late on Friday which saw a big move on GBP USD. But overall, I'll just show you on the daily what I was looking at last week, as I did actually show a short trade on this pair as well. So on the daily, we could see we had this trend that we were in for quite a while. You can see we were rejecting it, and this downtrend, and then we broke out last week. And on the breakout, seen as we had broken out past the key level of 1.3000, this key level here, this horizontal line across your screen, which I've explained a couple of times is quite important with this pair. As you can see just from here, the amount of times just on the 4 hour here, support, 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 broke, resistance, resistance, and we broken through resistance. So I was expecting a pullback towards the support. So I was testing to see whether this was actually just a retracement or whether this was going to be a new lower high in this sort of downtrend and actually come lower. So I did take a short on this pair. You can see here on the 4 hour, quite obvious price action here, sort of shooting stars around here, 4 hour bearish engulfing, and I took a short trade aiming to come back to 1.3000. Now on Instagram, I posted that just before non-farm payroll, I was taking some profit and moving my stop losses to break even, because I know how non-farm payroll can change the market very, very quickly, just as I showed you on Euro US dollar. Now we came down, and just before non-farm payroll, we managed to test that 1.300 level, and this 1 hour candlestick here looked like we were going to be able to break through. It was a very bearish candlestick, looked like price would actually continue lower, but then again a bit of manipulation there as price just rocketed, changed direction and moved higher. Now what we can see here is we have just completed the Fibonacci move on this as well. So you can see we had that perfect retracement to that 50% retracement there, and then we've actually gone on to now fulfill and hit that first extension, and we may go on to hit the second. So now that we've hit that first extension, I'm going to be watching the market upon opening and seeing whether we actually continue this move or whether we actually pull back. Now we have actually come up and hit this resistance here, so I'm watching price action to see how we react around this level. If we can actually continue higher, I will expect perhaps another pullback, another retracement from around these levels here to then go higher. But I am monitoring to see if that strength that we had on Friday out of nowhere actually continues or whether we pull back. So it'll be interesting to see how the market opens, and yeah, I'll be watching out to see where we can go from here. Now if we can manage to actually move higher, then I will be looking at price coming up to 1.3250 and then coming back up towards this level here of 1.3380 sort of level. So there will be my resistance levels that I will be looking at, so I'm going to be keeping an eye on that. Now Euro GBP, as I've got obviously the GBP USD here, and we had that big move on Friday. You can see the the pound weakness, the pound strength here. You can see that pound strength that we just rocketed. As we look at Euro GBP here, we can see the effect that the strong pound has had against the euro. So this is something that I'm going to be keeping an eye on market open and next week. Now we can see here at 0.8500 we got this major monthly support. Now we've been stuck in this 200 pip range on Euro GBP since February, at the start of this year. So the last 3-4 months we've been stuck in this 200 pip range. So this is why this monthly support is quite interesting to me, because I want to see whether we can actually break out of this or whether we're actually going to reverse and pull back up and stay within this range that we're stuck in. If I look at the weekly chart on this, we can see that we haven't actually traded below these levels here. This level here, we haven't traded below that since May 2017. So that's actually 2 years ago nearly since we've been at these levels. If we can manage to break this support, so you can see the support is actually quite key. Are we going to break down and have meet levels that we haven't traded since 2 years ago, or is this support going to hold, and are we going to stay within this sort of 200 pip range? So this is something I'm going to be keeping an eye out on. So we may get maybe sort of rejections down to the downside, similar to what we have here. See these spikes and these rejections off support. So anything like that I'm going to be looking at on this pair as well, as yeah, we may actually just reject this level, even though we've had that really strong pound finish on Friday. Let's see if that carries through to next week. Are we going to be able to sustain that, or is it just going to pull back from where we had? So GBP USD as well, I'll be keeping an eye on whether we can actually push forward, or whether we're going to come back. Maybe some news has happened over the weekend, or how the market receives that as it opens on Monday and Tuesday. But remember, it's a bank holiday on Monday as well, so these pairs could be slow to begin with on Monday. Now USD CAD, this pair, this is the daily chart at the moment. Bit of a mixed few days on this pair last week. You can see ever since we hit that monthly resistance of that weekly resistance of 1.3500, we've not really done too much. We've had a bearish day, a strong day, then a bearish day, a strong day. We're kind of ranging a little bit, but what I show you on the 4 hour is what I was looking at last week. So what we can see here is this trend line. I explained that I would, as I was long on this pair, that I explained on this pair a couple of weeks ago, and we hit my target of 1.3500. I was explaining that I wasn't really looking at taking a short on this pair until we broke this counter trend line. Now you can see that we broke this counter trend line now, and so anything below this was a sort of sell area. So I was looking out for sell signs from here. For me, this here was not really good enough, because there was a big move had happened already. So obviously, as many of you know, when you break a trend line, you wait for a retest to show that it is going to act as resistance, and any rejection from there you can basically look for a sell trade. So we had that break of this trend line, came back up and acted as resistance. I'll just drop down to the 1 hour chart here. You can just see we broke. We tried to break the trend line at this point here, had that little push back up higher, but yeah, from there we can sort of see now we've broken that trend line, and on the 1 hour we've had 3 pushes, 3 rejections and 3 pushes to the upside, trying to break back higher and trying to gain that 1.3500 sort of level, but we're failing. So I am favouring the short side on USD CAD at the moment. I will adjust this trend line here, and yeah, if we can break that counter trend line now, then I do think that shorts we're going to come a lot lower. My initial support will be looking around this level at 1.3380, and should we clear that, then yeah, I do think the path is clear to come down to 1.3250. If we can break this support here, a nice trade would be to wait for the break, come back, wait for the retest of resistance. If we get that rejection, then push down to then look to push down to the downside. You can also see here with the Fibonacci retracement, we've had this nice retracement to the around the 61.8%, and that last final push up to the 78, and now we could look at coming down to fulfilling these Fibonacci extensions at 1.3340 and back down to the lows of 1.3290. So that's a setup on that. Aussie US dollar. So you may remember last week I explained that we had come down on the daily. Let me just use this on the 4 hour. Again, there's a glitch on this on the daily chart. You can see here that it shows that the price has broken this support, which actually hasn't. So on the 4 hour, remember I was explaining this sort of, we had broken this monthly support level 0.0750, and we had found this form of support here. So last week we were trading around this level, and explained that I wasn't really looking for taking a trade on this pair until we broke out of a consolidation zone, which I was anticipating to happen. So we're actually trading here last week, and I drew this sort of level on, or this highlighted zone on, and explained that I expected price to bounce around between 0.700 and 0.750 or 7050. Now you can see that's more or less happened. If I just take away this support level here to make it clearer, you can see that's more or less happened here. So I'm just going to, this was my range, but now we actually popped our heads above that level. I'm going to adjust this range, same as here, and you can see here that we're now ranging. We're now in this consolidation zone, and I'm waiting for price action to basically break out of this consolidation zone before I take my next trade. Now remember, we got the Aussie news on Tuesday, so I think that's going to be the next big mover for this pair. There's nothing really going to happen with this pair until that news comes out, because people are going to be waiting for the news release, and then they're going to take the trade. So on the back of that, on Tuesday morning, we'll probably either see a breakout below this consolidation zone, and if we do, we can then start targeting to come lower. And if if not, then we may break higher, and we might break above this highlighted zone, and then start looking at coming higher once again. Now on the downside for Aussie, again, as I said, this red candle here is a glitch on TradingView at the moment. As you can see on Aussie, should we break lower, there's not really much support below us at the moment, apart from coming all the way down to where we had this big push down quite some time ago. There's not really much support, so should we break out of that consolidation zone, we could free fall. We could see the Aussie dollar get a lot weaker, but I don't know if we're ready for that yet. So what we might see is a push back up higher. But as I said, I'm not really jumping into this trade, basically eager to jump into a trade on Aussie dollar. I will be waiting for either a break above or below this consolidation zone. And when I say breaks above, usually I like at least a very, very strong 1 hour candlestick. But I do like to see something on the 2 hour or the 4 hour to confirm a nice breakout, and confirm it's not just short-lived like something we saw in USD JPY a couple of weeks ago. I want to see that there's a nice strong breakout. So if you can get a nice strong breakout on the 4 hour chart, on the 4 hour candle, then that's usually quite a good sign. New Zealand dollar, US dollar is quite similar. Remember last week we sort of came down and found this support here at 0.6580, this support here, and the second point on the trend line. So I also drew on the highlighted zone and anticipated the sort of range to come in between 0.6580 and 0.6700. At the moment we haven't really done much else apart from sort of trade within that range, so I'm not really again bothered about jumping into a trade on this yet. We do have the New Zealand dollar again, just like the Australian dollar. We have the Australian dollar news on Tuesday, and we have the New Zealand dollar news on Wednesday. So I am waiting for these news. Sorry guys, I'm just going to adjust this. I'm going to wait for the news to come out on both of these pairs before making judgment or before making a move next. So again, my advice here is just to basically maybe stay away. Don't try and guess the market, because high impact news coming out on Tuesday and Wednesday can take this in either direction. And yeah, with high impact news, you don't want to be on the wrong side of it. Now, one thing I want to go over is US oil. We had another great week on US oil, and what I'll just show you here is what I was showing you last week. This is very, very plain and simple. This is very, very just basic technical analysis, but shows you how sometimes you just need to simplify your charts and don't overcomplicate things. Now, this long-term trend line, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, is what I showed you last week. And at 0.3 was where we were trading last week. I dropped down to the 4 hour chart. We were trading at this level here. And I explained on last week's Sniper Sundays, I explained to look at a pullback on this commodity. Now I was short from the top here, and I gained 400 pips, which I explained and showed you last week. And around this level, I said to expect a pullback, as we had hit that long-term trend line support. Now the levels that I gave last week were I think one of the main levels I gave was $64.50 to look for a retracement. Now we can see here, I drew on this Fibonacci last week, but we can see here that we had that perfect pullback to the top of this wick was 64.70. So I did mention to actually come, I was to 64.50, which is here, to look for a retracement back to that level. If we see any rejection, you see any rejection from that level or weakness, to look at shorting this commodity. Now if I just get rid of this Fibonacci, we can just see here that perfect rejection of $64.50. We have that 4-hour shooting star, and then we just rolled over to that, back to the downside, and came down to my basically targets. Now I did first mention $63 was my first target the last couple of weeks, and should we break that there could be a lot more downside. Now if I just put that Fibonacci move back on, we can actually see that we came down and tapped the first extension on that. See this level here at $61.22. So we actually managed to touch $61, or just the lowest was $60.95. But we came down and tapped that Fibonacci extension, and just like I showed you in Euro USD and a few other pairs, when we came down, we've tapped that. People are taking profit, and bulls are trying to move back into the market. So at the moment, I do think we might see a little bit of a retracement on this pair, having fallen from up here. I showed this on Instagram as well. I'm actually still holding one trade from here. I had multiple positions accumulated around this area, and then I held them down. Took some profit here. As this came back, then we rolled back over to the downside. Still holding some positions. Close out some more of my positions here, and took some more profit. And I do expect this to actually come a little bit lower. I would like to see around $60 on oil, but what I do think is we might just see another pullback up. So like the Fibonacci I showed you previously, we might see this pull back up to around the $62, $63 area again, and that $63 was the original support sort of area that I explained. So I'll be looking around here, and if we can come back up and retest that and fail to break above $63, then I will be looking at this rolling over to the downside once again. I'll quickly just run over USD JPY. Not something that really interests me majorly, but again, I know a lot of you like this. This is just a daily chart, and this is the highlighted zone I showed you previously. I just want to show you on a daily chart here, because it's quite choppy on the 4-hour, but how simple price action can be sometimes. So we've got this highlighted zone here. We can see we had that breakout, and then on the daily chart we had this shooting star. We tried to push back up, and price got pushed all the way back down on the daily candlestick. Next day we tried the same thing, tried to push back up, but price was closed back below the range. So once we broke out of this range with this candlestick here, we broke out of that range, we tried to get back up again and broke back below and got pushed back below and closed below. Tried the same thing the next day, closed back below, shooting star, big bearish candles, and then we had this daily bearish engulfing as we pushed down, and then we just dropped, and we retested the range here again, retest once, retest twice, and now we're just falling down to the downside. So I do expect more downside on USD JPY. I'm keeping an eye on it, but it just wasn't something I was interested in last week. I had myself in other trades, and it was being quite choppy, as you can see here on the 4-hour chart. So I sort of stayed away from it. It just didn't really interest me. I do think we can come lower here. So we broke this this trend line. I will be watching price action to come down to this level here, and I'll be watching price around this level 110.80 or sorry 0.90. I'll be watching price action around there, and whether we can actually break this level. If we can break this level, then I might be looking at taking shorts on a retest of that level, coming down to 110. But yeah, I'm going to be wary and watching this around that price action there. But yeah, you can see what I was explaining last week, that we had sort of that breakout, but it wasn't clear on the 4-hour chart, so it was very, very choppy around this level. It wasn't something I wanted to get into, but here where we retested and rejected here, this was the sort of signs that we were no longer able to really trade above this level, and that short trades were on the card. So that is USD JPY. Now that's everything for today, guys. There's a few setups there that I'll be looking at, and yeah, I'll be updating you as always on my Instagram during the week. Now guys, there is one more thing. At the very beginning, when I've done one of my first videos on this channel, I explained to you guys that I would be bringing out something, and that something exciting for you guys, for people that wanted to learn even more in-depth analysis, and to more or less trade along with me. And I am very close to releasing that now. I'm in the final stages of that, and we're nearly finished with it. And it is going to be released on May the 19th, so that's in 2 weeks' time. So for anyone that's really interested in learning more and understanding more how to trade, please leave your email address on my website at BDFOREX.com. I'll put the link in the description in the video, and if you head over there, leave your email, then I am going to be sending out an email with all the details very soon, and giving you all the information of what you need, of what's coming up. So as I said, really excited to get that out, finally get that out there and show you what I've been working on. 2 more weeks, final stages now, just finishing a few bits off, and it'll all be ready. So I hope you all have a great week. I hope running over these trades help you and help you gain some profit next week. So good luck for the trading week ahead, and I will see you next Sniper Sundays. Thank you.